Hi guys. I'm Andy Yang. I'll be doing the computer history topic research project. That is a presentation. So my presentation is called Calculators and Computers History. Go on. So why does the history of calculators mix in with the history of computers? So first off, um, the computer was not developed for entertainment or communication, as most people do know if we're in this field, but they were made for the ease of calculating and computing numerical problems. So a big historical aspect of this is the space race, in where where people were creating giant supercomputers to crunch numbers so that spaceships can make it all the way to the moon and stuff, or just throw out satellites. That's a big event. There are other events such as business related, but they are not as memorable. But it's their history is intertwined, but yet different. So the modern computer today that we see was just an aspect of trying to make numbers faster. So I'm gonna go into what is a calculator. So we know what a calculator is. A calculator is, that thing that we had in our hand, or maybe your phone that calculates numbers. But to us modern day people, that's what it is. But it's before all of that, it was something else. So I went here that they're just numerical problems. So if I just read it out, a computer is a computing tool used by many to calculate the problems of numerical reason. It is an electrical device with keys to enable the inputting of numbers and a display screen to display whatever is calculated. Inside the calculator are the usual electronical parts that keeps a device of such caliber to function, such as a battery and the processor chip and other things that, oh well, that. Besides a physical calculator, there's also the virtual calculators that we use on our phone or on a computer or a laptop, but most require electronic devices to have. It wasn't always like this. I think I might go into here. Yeah, going into here, the calculators weren't always made like that. They were ancient calculators, but they weren't like calculators. They were just tools to help calculating, which is a calculator technically, but they didn't call it a calculator, and it's not really a true calculator. It's like having your fingers to help you, multiply or add, basically. So what they used before that was the Abyss, this thing right here. This was one. I'll go into it later on, but these are two Abyss. They're actually, before researching this, I didn't know what an Abyss did. I didn't know how it worked, but it happened. This is one of the Pascal. Well, I'll go into it the next slide. This is a Pascal calculator in which I don't even know how it works, but apparently it's the first true calculator, meaning that it probably could calculate numbers by itself without you having to input it. Like, input too much. Like, it can calculate by itself. So how did an Abyss work? You could just read this. I can describe it. So basically, there's like so many rows, and each, like, if you start from the bottom up or the top down, the first row will be count as ones. The second row will count as tens. The third row will count as hundreds. So if you have your bottom row of 5 and the middle row of 6, so if your first row was 5, your second row was 6, and your third row was like 3, you have like 365. That's how it works. It was hard to compute in my head because I was trying to do it, and that's why people develop Abyss, because people like me who could calculate in the head get messed up, and they need a physical representation of it. Okay, so this is the next part of a history of calculators. Basically, Kurt Hetzerstart in 1945 made like a calculator. This thing right here, it's looks weird. Hey, it really does. I don't know how it works. It probably works by flicking these switches. Like, I didn't look on a video on how it works, but that's just like the first like mechanical calculator. Next was the Japan calculator. in which like that's basically the modern one, in which like you could just input numbers and it'll show like an input where it said like, oh my god, this is 25. After you put 5 times 5, it'll show you like it's not like physically like a digital thing. In this case, it printed out like a piece of paper. This is just a museum of it, but that's it. That's what it did. Next is the history of computers. So like I said earlier, or at the beginning of this, that calculators and computers are different. So this is why. Computers are different in which they process information, but it doesn't necessarily have to be numbers. But at the same time, they just process information, not numbers. And they use that process to create something else. So a very good idea of this is the Jacquard loom, in which the developer of the loom made like a punching board, this thing right here. And you put that into the loom, this thing right here, and it created designs. So that's like the basis of a computer, is that you input something and it will process out to give you something else. Same thing for a calculator, but the process is different. It's not meant for math, and it could virtually do anything. So this is part 2, in which the computer is made, in which computer technology goes up. This is the first modern computation. So the first modern, I guess you can say, computer was a device made by Herman Hollingsworth, who calculated 800 census, which I would believe to be a lot of people. And I think what happened was that he just inputs numbers in there and just like turns it, and it's like automatically like does it. And then the next thing was amazing. The next computation invention was amazing. Was the Turing machine. It was basically a machine that could calculate anything, which I should put into the calculators. But at the same time, it was the first modern computer. It was the basis of the first modern computers, because with it, it could make so that devices could do anything, basically. A universal device that could create anything that could be calculated. So after that, people just started developing like better design, better graphics, and then after that, they started making the first computer languages such as the COBOL, and then just straight after that was just design and ease of use and processing. So what I meant earlier at the beginning was that calculators and computers aren't the same, even though they work pretty similar. They're quite different because calculators exist to calculate by putting user-made commands. Like you get 5 plus 5 to make 10 with a calculator because you put in 5 plus 5. That's calculating. But computing requires the process of it. So like I put in red and then there's blue. These aren't numbers, and then you mix them together and you make purple. Okay. But what if you do that? Yeah, that's basically my example. The greatest example is like Jacquard loom, which you put in something else and it creates something else, without necessarily having to be 1 plus 1 or 2 plus 2 or 3 plus 3. But yeah, this is my reference site. I only used 2 for like historical reading, analysis, and just like thinking. The rest of these are like images, and I should put it in, but it's okay. But yeah, that's my video.